The New Mexico sky bled into hues of orange and purple as we settled into our campsite. The air, crisp and clean, carried the scent of pine and damp earth. Laughter echoed across the still water of the lake as we unpacked our gear, the excitement of the weekend ahead palpable. My family and I, along with a group of close friends, had sought refuge in this remote corner of the Gila National Forest, far from the city's clamor. We yearned for a weekend of unplugged tranquility, a chance to reconnect with nature and each other. The lake, nestled amongst towering pines, reflected the fading light like a mirror. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soothing melody. The lake shimmered under the setting sun, its surface undisturbed except for the occasional leaping fish. We pitched our tents near the shore, a small cluster of canvas against the backdrop of the wilderness. The children ran around, their voices filled with the joy of open space and freedom. A sense of peace settled over us, a welcome respite from our busy lives. This was exactly what we needed, a chance to breathe, to relax, and to appreciate the simple beauty of the natural world. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, we gathered firewood, anticipating the warmth and camaraderie of the evening campfire. The fire crackled and popped, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky. We huddled closer, drawn in by the warmth and the hypnotic dance of the flames. The conversation shifted to stories of past camping trips, tales of close encounters with wildlife and humorous mishaps. Someone brought out a guitar, and we sang along to familiar tunes, our voices blending with the sounds of the night. The atmosphere was relaxed and convivial, a perfect blend of nature and companionship. We felt a million miles away from the stresses of everyday life, immersed in the simple pleasures of friendship and the outdoors. As the night wore on, the conversation turned to local legends and ghost stories. Someone mentioned the tale of a young girl who had drowned in the lake years ago, her spirit said to wander the shores, searching for her lost family. The story sent a shiver down my spine, despite my attempts to dismiss it as folklore. The combination of the darkness, the isolation, and the eerie tale began to create an unsettling atmosphere. I glanced around nervously, half expecting to see a ghostly figure emerge from the shadows. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves in the trees and causing the flames to flicker and dance more wildly. The shadows seemed to deepen, stretching and contorting into strange shapes. The cheerful atmosphere of earlier had subtly shifted, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The laughter subsided, replaced by hushed whispers and nervous glances. The previously comforting sounds of the night now seemed ominous, each rustle and crackle amplified by our heightened awareness. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the night's silence. It was a child's voice, high-pitched and filled with terror. "Help me! Help me!" the voice cried, echoing across the lake. The scream hung in the air, a chilling reminder that we were not alone in this remote wilderness. We exchanged terrified glances, our eyes wide with fear and disbelief. The fire, which had been a source of comfort and warmth, now seemed to cast menacing shadows, transforming the familiar landscape into something sinister. The wind howled through the trees like a mournful spirit. The peaceful serenity of the evening had been shattered, replaced by a palpable sense of dread. "Did you hear that?" someone whispered, their voice trembling. We all nodded, too afraid to speak. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the pounding of our hearts and the rustling of the wind. We strained our ears, listening for any further sound, but only the eerie stillness of the night answered. The scream had been so clear, so real, that it was impossible to dismiss it as our imagination. A chilling thought crept into my mind. What if the local legends were true? "It sounded like a little girl," another voice said, barely above a whisper. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. The image of the drowned girl from the ghost story flashed through my mind. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end. The air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding, as if something unseen was watching us from the darkness. We were no longer in control of the situation, and the realization was terrifying. A sense of urgency filled the air. We couldn't just sit there, frozen in fear. We had to do something. Section 4. The Figure in White. With flashlights cutting through the darkness, we cautiously made our way toward the far side of the lake, the source of the chilling scream. The ground beneath our feet was uneven, littered with fallen branches and rocks. The trees loomed over us, their branches reaching out like skeletal arms. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, but now it carried an undercurrent of something else, something metallic and unsettling. Each step we took seemed to amplify the silence, making the surrounding woods feel even more vast and menacing. As we reached the edge of the clearing, our beams of light illuminated a figure standing motionless in the middle of the field. It was tall and slender, draped in what appeared to be a long, white garment. The figure stood perfectly still, its back to us as if unaware of our presence. A gasp escaped my lips. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. The figure seemed to glow faintly in the darkness, an ethereal presence against the backdrop of the dark trees. Fear gripped me, a cold hand squeezing my lungs. My breath hitched in my throat. I wanted to run, to turn back and hide in the safety of our campsite, but something held me rooted to the spot, a morbid curiosity mixed with a sense of responsibility. We had to know what this was, what had made that terrifying scream. The others seemed equally transfixed, their faces pale and etched with fear. We moved closer, our flashlights trained on the figure, each step a hesitant advance into the unknown. As we approached, the figure slowly turned. Its face was obscured by shadow, but we could make out the long white hair that cascaded down its back. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, silently observing us. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of something otherworldly. The silence was deafening, broken only by the rustling of the leaves and the frantic beating of our hearts. We were just a few feet away now, close enough to see the fine details of the white garment which seemed to flow and ripple in the non-existent breeze. Section 5. Retreat and Pursuit. The figure began to move, gliding effortlessly across the field towards the tree line. It didn't run, didn't walk, but simply floated, as if unbound by the laws of gravity. Panic surged through me, a wave of pure adrenaline. The others shared my terror, their faces contorted in fear. We turned and ran, our flashlights bouncing wildly, casting erratic shadows that danced and twisted around us. The figure didn't pursue, but its presence loomed large in our minds, a specter of the unknown that haunted our every step. We stumbled and scrambled through the undergrowth, our hearts pounding in our chests. The branches clawed at our clothes, the ground snagged at our feet. We didn't look back, didn't dare to see if the figure was following us. All we could think about was getting back to the campsite, to the relative safety of the firelight. The woods seemed to close in around us, the darkness pressing against us like a physical force. The sounds of the night, once soothing, now seemed menacing, each rustle and crackle a potential threat. We burst into the clearing, gasping for breath, our bodies trembling with fear and exertion. We huddled around the fire, our faces pale and drawn. The flames, which had seemed so small and insignificant just moments before, now offered a beacon of hope, a symbol of protection against the darkness that surrounded us. We looked at each other, our eyes wide with shared terror, searching for answers in each other's faces, but finding only fear and confusion. We tried to rationalize what we had seen, to explain it away as a trick of the light, a figment of our overactive imaginations. But the image of the tall white figure, its silent, watchful presence, was burned into our minds. We knew, deep down, that we had witnessed something unexplainable, something that defied logic and reason. The fear lingered, a cold knot in our stomachs, a constant reminder of the unknown that lurked just beyond the firelight. Section 6. Unsettling Night. The rest of the night was a blur of fear and anxiety. We kept the fire burning high, a fragile barrier against the darkness. We huddled together, seeking comfort in each other's presence, but the sense of unease lingered, a heavy weight on our chests. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent shivers down our spines. The woods seemed alive, filled with unseen eyes and whispered secrets. Sleep was impossible, replaced by a constant state of hypervigilance. Throughout the night we heard strange noises coming from the woods, rustling leaves, snapping branches, and the occasional guttural growl. We couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that something was out there, just beyond the reach of our firelight. The image of the white figure kept flashing through our minds, a ghostly apparition that haunted our thoughts. We jumped at every sound, our nerves frayed and raw. The night dragged on, each hour an eternity. The darkness seemed to stretch on forever, an oppressive blanket that smothered any hope of peace or rest. We yearned for the dawn, for the first rays of sunlight to pierce through the darkness and banish the terrors of the night. We longed for the familiar comfort of daylight, for the reassurance that the world was still as we knew it. As the first hint of light appeared on the horizon, we breathed a collective sigh of relief. The woods seemed less menacing in the pale light of dawn, the shadows less deep, the sounds less ominous. We packed up our gear quickly, eager to leave this place of unsettling memories. As we drove away, I couldn't help but steal one last glance at the lake, its surface now calm and serene, as if nothing had happened. But the memories of the night lingered, a chilling reminder of the unknown that lurks in the shadows, waiting to be discovered.